Hey, if you're new to Tableau Public, you've found the right video. We're going to talk through how to install Tableau Public as well as how to actually use it to create data visualizations.
Here's the link where you would go to download and install it. You basically need to type in your email address. You click on download the app. Then you need to accept the terms and click install. After it installs, you can open Tableau Public and start having fun. So this is the screen you'll see when it's installed. Let's talk about the types of data connections that you can have in Tableau Public. So it's a bit limited when compared to Tableau Desktop, which is basically the paid version of Tableau Public, but you can still have a lot of fun. You can connect to Excel files, text files, Access, JSON files, and so on. Today, we're actually going to connect to an Excel file as an example. You can actually use this link, superdatascience.com/Tableau, to pull the data down, download it if you would like to follow along. We're basically going to focus on the first tab, which is the orders tab. And just a bit about the data. So Global Superstore is a data set with customer-centric data, and it has information on all of the orders that have been placed through different vendors and markets. All right, so let's go ahead and open up Tableau Public and start building a dashboard. The first thing we need to do, as I mentioned, is connect to data. So I have that Excel file, the Superstore data set, saved on my desktop, so we can go ahead and connect to a file, which is going to be Excel. We're going to look at my desktop and select the Superstore US 2015. And you can follow along with other versions of the Global Superstore dataset. If you basically just Google it, you'll find something online. There's a lot of versions of this out there. All right, so we see three tabs here. So we have orders, returns, and users. The tab we're going to focus on today is orders. So we're going to drag the sheet in there and let that load for a minute. So once you see the data populated here, you can go ahead and click onto sheet 1. Processing our request. So far, this back data should look familiar. It looks very much like a spreadsheet, and it's just showing the types of data that we're importing into Tableau. Great, here we go. So one thing you can notice right away is that Tableau has actually taken our spreadsheet of data and neatly listed out the dimensions and measures over on the left-hand side. So the dimensions contain fields such as location data like cities and countries, and customer name, order dates, customer IDs, and the measure data contains things like profits, sales, costs, and so on. So the next thing I'd like to point out is the Show Me tool, or the Show Me tab. When we open that, it's basically a cool feature that allows users to create visuals based on the field in the view. So right now we haven't brought any of the dimensions or measures into the view. That's why all of the charts are sort of grayed out and they're not available for us to use right now. And if we hover over something like a bar chart, for example, you can see on the bottom here, you can basically see the minimum requirements needed in order to create this type of chart. So for a bar chart, you need at least one measure. For example, for a field map, you need at least one geographic dimension in order to create a map view, which makes sense. You need a city or country in order to create a map. All right, so let's start with an example. Let's take sales, double click that. You can also drag and drop, but I choose to double click and then double click on region. So immediately you can see that it builds a bar chart because that's what Tableau thinks is the best way to represent this data. But you can see that there are other things available now. We can have a stacked bar, we can have tree maps, highlight tables, you can do a pie chart, for example. I'm just gonna hit Control Z for a minute. So basically one thing you'll notice is there are other things that are grayed out, such as line charts. And as I talked about this before, it's because we don't have all of the specific minimum requirements. In this case, we were missing that date. We don't have a date, therefore we can't select line charts. So if we do add the order date, and we change the order date from a discrete year, which is its default value, these values here are all discrete. If we change it to a continuous, let's say month, we can now get more of a line chart, and you can actually see that we can create line charts, we can create area charts, we can change this from a discrete line chart to a continuous line chart. And let me just hide the show me tool. You can see that the colors here pertain to regions, and we can change that. We can change the actual colors, just double click it, and let's say if we want central to be gray for some reason, we can change that, or even change the whole color palette. But let's leave that for now. So basically, as of now, it's a pretty clean view of the chart. It's pretty nice looking, but we can definitely clean it up a bit more and make it look nicer. So a few things that I would do is maybe remove the month of order date from the title of the axis just by double clicking and deleting the title, because we can see that this is the month. We can change the format of sales. So if we do a drop down on the sales measure and go to default properties, number format, and then change it to maybe a custom currency of 0 decimal places, it changes our axes, and then it also changes the information that you see in the tooltip. We can go ahead and add a title for our worksheet. Let's maybe call it, let's see, sales by month. That should work. We can add mark labels. So we can say show mark labels, but since this looks very messy, we can say to show me the most recent mark label. Other things we can do here for line chart, if we look into the switch from the data tab to the analytics tab, we can actually create reference lines. And the way you do that is you just take it and drag it, and then you need to decide if you want the reference line to be across table, across the pane, across the cell. Do you want it to apply to the month of order date or sales? And let's just do the table sum of sales average line. And then it asks, how do you want it computed? Again, you can change whether you want a line, a band, a distribution, so forth. Let's stay with a line, and let's change the label. Instead of showing the computation, which is showing as average right now, let's make it custom and just call it, maybe let's say average sales. And then we can actually do a drop down here and put in the value. And let's also fill below a light beige color just to see where we fall below average sales. All right, we've completed our first worksheet. So I think let's create a few more charts before we start building an actual dashboard. Okay, so let's create another worksheet. And this time we'll create a filled map view that shows profit by state. So let's go ahead and call this profit by state. And let's bring in our state field with our profit field. Now going to the show me tool, you can look at the types of options, and let's select the filled. Let's go ahead and bring our state onto label. And if you can also bring profit onto label, and you can see it's already nicely formatted with the dollar signs. So we can also see that profit is on color, and it ranges from dark orange to blue. We can change that, but I actually like that one. We can make this a bit nicer by going to map and map, not options, map layers. And we can pretty much remove all of the map layers to clean it up and just leave the necessary information. Another thing you can do here is when you click on color, you can add different color borders. I think white borders make it pop more here, so I'm gonna go ahead and leave the white border. Let's also create a bar chart view that shows region and shipping cost. So double click on shipping cost and region. We can go ahead and add the mark labels, and let's look at, instead of the sum of shipping costs, let's go ahead and change that to average. and change this to average shipping cost by region. Okay, we can go ahead and format the shipping cost to make it a $sign with maybe 1 decimal point, just to make it look a little cleaner. And we can also remove the headers there. We can place our region on color, since that's what we did with the first chart, just to be consistent. Now we have 3 worksheets, and I guess the last chart we'll create is let's create a dual axis chart that shows profit and sales in one view. So let's go ahead and bring profit, bring in sales, look at it by order date, and let's look at it by continuous day. That would look interesting. And let's also create it as an area chart. So we can actually change, if you can see here, profit is an area chart, and we can click into the sales view and change it from area into a line chart. And then clicking back into profit, we can actually put profit on color, and we can make sales maybe a darker, like a black or something. So how do we get this to be a dual axis? Because right now it looks like it's going one axis here and another axis here. What we can do is we can do a drop down on sales and then scroll down and select dual axis. And now you can see we have sales and profit all on the same axis, but you can see that the axes are not aligned. So we have 35,000 here and 50,000 here. So what we can do is we can synchronize the axes by right clicking and then selecting synchronize axes. And now they're perfectly aligned, so we can actually remove the header here, and we can change the header here to call it profit and sales. We can also clean up the bottom axis, remove the title there, because we can see that it's the day, and that just gives us a bit more space. Let's call this profit and sales. All right, so now that we have our 4 sample charts, we can go ahead and create a dashboard. So how do we add a dashboard? Basically, you need a little icon here that looks like a grid with a plus sign, and then when you hover, you can see it says new dashboard. You click on that, and there you go, you have your new dashboard. So what we need to decide early on is what size dashboard we want to use. So we can change the size here, and I'll just change the maximum size, and we'll go from, let's say, 1350 to, I think 860 is just fine. Now we can add the title here, so let's show dashboard title, and let's call this store data analysis. Okay, now we have the title up there, and let's go ahead and just drag in all of our visits. So let's put the map view, let's put the shipping cost, and then we can look at sales by month, and then profit and sales. And then we can actually resize things just to make them fit a little bit nicer. We can enlarge the map a bit, and you can play with it to see what works best. Now, one thing we can do is we can actually add filters to the view. So let's go ahead and go into any of the worksheets, and we actually have a filter here, product category. So what we can do is we can just bring out that filter, product category, and we can change the filter. Instead of a multiple select, let's say we want to see single value list only, we can do that. And we can also make sure that this is applying to all worksheets that use this data source. So basically it will apply it to everything. You can also limit it. You can select the specific worksheets you want to apply the filter to. So you can go to selected worksheets. You can see they're all selected, but you can uncheck them if you. Let's keep them all checked for now. So let's see how this works. So we're in the all category. We can see all of the numbers changing. So for example, average sales across all product categories is about 80,000. When we look at furniture, that number goes down to 27. Office furniture, and you can see the map view changes, the average shipping cost by region changes, the profit, sales, and profit and sales changes. So it's pretty cool. So now that we have this dashboard created, what else can we do? Since it's an interactive dashboard, we can do filters, we can actually drill down on the region. So let's say we are interested in looking at the West region. If you just click on the West, you can see that it basically highlights the West region in the charts that it applies to. So now that we have this chart dashboard created, we can actually publish it. What we do now is we go to File, we go to Save to Tableau Public As, and then typically you'd log in, but I'm logged in already, so you can just create a title. So I'll call it Superstore Data Analysis, and I'll go ahead and hit Save. So then it publishes the views, and let's just give it a minute. So it opens up my profile, and it says that the save is complete, and you say got it. And this is what it looks like published. So you can also check out, when you look at your profile, you can see a summary of all your visits that you create, and you can actually share this with others. These are just a sample of some of the things I've created in the past. So there are several charts that you can build in Tableau, and you can also use a large number of complex calculations, level of detail calculations that I won't get into much today. But I suggest that if you're interested in learning more about Tableau, you should definitely download the tool. It's free, and there's a lot of sample data that you can start playing with. So pick something that really interests you, and I say just start visiting. All right, so let's talk a bit about what else we can see on the Tableau public website. Let's click on the first tab. This is the gallery. This is where you can basically see visualization examples from others that are on Tableau public. So you can see some cool hex bin, energy in America, how Najib spends his day on Twitter, urban forest of New York, history of the US. So these are some cool visualizations where you can get ideas. And these are the greatest hits. You can also look at the viz of the day, the state of French cinema. If you're interested in this one, you can click on it. Let's find something interesting. Oh, beer in Europe. That could be interesting. So we can go ahead and click on that, and it's going to open. Basically looking at beer production and consumption in Europe. You can scroll down and look at some others while it loads. Oh, there it is. Okay, so this is the visualization. You're looking at the UK. You can see the years and amount of liters of beer consumed. Looks like you can hover on the different parts here and get more information on the different countries. So it's pretty cool. And let's say you're interested in replicating something like this. It doesn't have to be about beer. It could be about obviously anything, any data that you have that you, let's say, want to create this type of map view and you've never done it. What you can do is you can download the workbook. You select Tableau workbook, and it's gonna go ahead and download, and you can see all the backend stuff about how it was built. So it's loading there. While that loads, let's go ahead and walk through some of the other tabs of Tableau Public. There's the Authors tab. So this is where they feature their best and brightest, as they say. These are people that have multiple vises. These are people that are active on Tableau Public. Let's go ahead and look at Adolfo Hernandez, just as an example. You can see he has 25 vises, and here are the vises here. And again, if you like any of his vises, you can also download them and learn from them. So it looks like this beer in Europe is actually downloaded, so let's go ahead and open that up. Sometimes it takes a while to load, especially if there are multiple quick filters or images, things like that. So here's the viz, here's the backend. You can see all these multiple sheets that were used, and you can drill down into any of the sheets, and I think this is the one that we mentioned we might be interested in replicating. So we can go ahead and go to that sheet, and we can see exactly what was done. You could see what was placed where, and what are what marks were used and what colors were used. So if you wanted to replicate it, you could. So let's go ahead and go back to our Tableau Public. There's also a blog where you can read things from the Tableau Public team. And then you can also look at other resources. Let's go ahead, look at the resources. So this is where there's a lot of training materials that you can look at. There's some how-to videos. You can look at how to connect to data, how to connect to different types of data, web connectors, how to prepare your data and structure it and splitting it. So there is definitely a lot of free training that you can get your hands on in case you wanted to learn Tableau. There's also some sample data sets that you can use, and these are free to use. You just download them and start playing with them.
If you've enjoyed this content, please support us by subscribing to the DATAcated YouTube channel. Bye.
All right, everyone. This brings me to the end of my presentation on getting started with Tableau Public. Tableau allows users to easily create awesome looking visualizations without ever having to learn to code. It allows users to easily connect to several data sources and to transform your data into interactive dashboards with the ease of just dragging and dropping the fields into view. Tableau Public allows users to share their visualizations online, and then other users can actually download those workbooks and see how they were built, in case they're interested in replicating or just learning. And you can do that as well. If you see something really cool on the Tableau Public gallery, you can definitely just go ahead and download it to your PC and then look at how it was built and all the backend stuff.